Vols coverage on Twitter. Austin, what's up? How are you?
I'm doing great, guys. I'm going to play golf in North Carolina today. It's an off day for the Vols, and, I'm staring at the Smoky Mountains, which has that beautiful smoky haze across them right now.
I love it. I cannot wait to see that view soon. Coming up to watch football in Neyland Stadium. Austin, you guys had the report over the weekend first that Jordan Thomas is out for the season with a knee injury. You mentioned in the article that this opens up the door for Boo Carter. Does he get the first crack at that star position for Tennessee?
Yeah, in my opinion, yes. I think that they are going to move Boo into that position, and it's up to Boo over the next 2 to 3 weeks to prove he can handle it. If he can handle it, it'll be his spot to run with. If he can't handle it, then I think you'll see them adjust to whether it's, Jalen McMurray, the Temple transfer at corner, Will Brooks, who played it a little bit last year. I think a lot of the moving pieces there of who, it is. If it's not Boo Carter, will be dependent on kind of who steps forward. Does does Jordan Matthews step up to allow Jalen McMurray to be able to freelance a little bit? Does Jacoby Thomas step up to allow Wiltwood? But ultimately, I think that this is Boo Carter's job as long as Boo can handle it. So this is, again, will be dependent on Boo, but to me, this is all Boo Carter until he proves otherwise.
Austin, what are the early returns on that secondary in a position with so many question marks? Who is receiving positive reviews in that corner and safety spot for Tennessee so far through fall camp?
Ricky Gibson and Jermod McCoy have both performed extremely well. They've had great summers. Tennessee's got a lot of high hopes on the corners. Jordan Matthews has had a strong summer, which is good to see because I think Jordan, probably got too down on himself at times when he would make a mistake. I think when you play corner, you have to go into it knowing you're set up to fail before the ball's ever snapped. And so I think he's kind of gotten past some of that. He started to see some positive movement. Obviously, McMurray's played some at Temple, and Tennessee likes kind of the, his mental makeup, playing the position. So, they like where they're at corner, especially with their two starters. Jermod McCoy, I think, has got big-time potential, and, you'll have him for 2 years, and you'll have Ricky Gibson for 2 years, at minimum, obviously, which is big to have some continuity there at corner.
Austin Price with us this morning, VolQuest's on 3. Austin, on the other side of getting injured guys back, how's the running backs looked with Peyton Lewis being back in the practice field? And, of course, if we can get a somewhat of an update on Cam Selden with that group also. How have they looked in training camp so far?
Yeah, Cam continues to progress. I think he'll be cleared to go by the start of the season based off people I'm talking to. I'm not sure if he plays against Chattanooga. I think he'll be available for NC State. Again, as of right now, barring any setbacks, it certainly feels like he's ahead of schedule and will be good to go. But at some point, they're going to need to get, the rust knocked off on him. As for the other guys, Peyton Lewis has really impressed, through the first, week and a half of fall camp. Talked to a couple of players and, they were singing his praises and kind of, what he brings to the table, how he runs, his ability to cut. And so he reminds me a lot, his ability to kind of one step cut and go of Arian Foster, a guy you played with, Ramon. Not as tall as Arian, but at the same time, like, he is a bigger back. I mean, is he Cam Selden big? No, but he's not small either. I mean, he's deceptive with his size. So Deshaun Bishop continues to come along. Obviously, Dylan Sampson is the lead back here, and they got to keep him healthy through fall camp. But, to this point, without any major scrimmages being played, they're happy with where they are at the running back position.
Austin, I'll admit a flaw of mine. It is just thinking stuff sometimes just going to work out. Maybe because, hey, I've always had the mindset it'll be fine, right? That's always my mindset. With that being said, I think a lot of us Vols fans are thinking we just sprinkle some dust on Nico Iamaleava and he's just going to be this 5-star automatically. Austin, with that being said, how has he looked in training camp with his relationship with his wide receivers, his command of this offense? Has he looked like the guy as far as what you've seen and what the coaches are allowing you to report?
Well, we're never out there for anything meaningful, those.
Okay.
But based off the people I've spoken to, yes, he has been really, really good. A couple of days ago, he led them right down the field on a couple of 70-yard drives. Now, the one time he did throw the back shoulder ball that got picked off by Jermod McCoy. You saw it on Twitter. Tennessee tweeted out, just didn't tweet who was throwing it, but that was Nico. But he literally made 3 or 4 plays on that drive, I was told, that where, they just weren't able to make those type plays a year ago. And so there's a lot of excitement out there about just kind of his ability to make plays, his ability to improvise, his ability to keep his eyes down the field when things break down and make plays on the run. They love the way he's throwing the football, and he's got a nice group of weapons to throw to. Brew McCoy looks like he's getting healthier and healthier by the day. Chris Brazel has been brought in to really kind of help establish and solidify the receiver position. He's done that. They'll get Mike Matthews back, I think, this week. And so they're going to get deeper and deeper at the wideout spot. And let's not forget about Caleb Webb and Chaz Nimrod, 2 kids who had to play last year, probably weren't truly ready, but have had tremendous off seasons. And they're basically saying we're not going quietly into the night and just being relegated to, the same old role. We want to be back, out there on the field in the fall. And Chaz Nimrod and Caleb Webb are playing like it.
Austin Price of VolQuest joining us here on RKW this morning. Yeah, and that's actually, you a little bit, in a way, answered my question, but I was going to ask you about those wide receivers early on in camp, because that's the thing. Josh Heupel did, in particular, talk about Chaz Nimrod, and from the body standpoint, too, like he's physically gotten himself into a really good position.
Yeah, again, Kurt Schmidt does a really nice job. I think for years and years, the strength coach here got a lot of publicity, no matter who it was, and nobody really ever talks about Kurt Schmidt, but quietly, you look at how this team looks, and it does a really nice job. And that's every position, including the receiver position. So they've done a nice job of kind of transforming their bodies. I think part of it too is that for Nimrod, it's the number change. You just you look a little different going from 81 to 11, and I think for him, it's just a confidence level that he's carrying right now that maybe he didn't have 1 to 2 years ago. And he has a lot of belief that, he's going to play this fall. And I do think he'll play this fall. Now, the question is, does he crack the starting lineup? I'm not too ready to go there, but I do think that Kelsey Pope's going to play a bigger rotation this fall than he played at any point in his couple of years coaching receivers here.
Austin, when it comes to the offensive line, how have they looked early on? And specifically with John Campbell Jr. moving to right tackle, how is he looking?
Yeah, he's been a little bit banged up. I think he's going to be fine long term, but any guys like Cooper, John Campbell, even Lance Hurd, who had a meniscus cleanup back in July, they're being cautious with because they are a little bit deeper on the offensive line, so they can throw some reps, early in fall camp to Larry Johnson and to some of these players that really kind of need the work to kind of come along. So if you're John Campbell, I want to quote it to the Orlando Pace. Orlando Pace, probably the last decade of his career, never went through training camp, Ramon. He's like, nah, I've done this. John Campbell's a 6th, 7th year guy. I'm not sure how incentivized he is to, be going through fall camp like he's a first year guy. And I think that's kind of natural. But yeah, he's been a little bit banged up, and they're being cautious with him. And as far as the right side, he's good. I mean, I've talked to multiple people that have said he's ran with it since the move, and I'm not sure he really wanted to move, but it was what it was when they got Lance Hurd. And so, now John Campbell's, working on the right side. But the biggest thing is just trying to be healthy for game 1, August 31st against Chattanooga.
VolQuest's Austin Price joining us this morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will, as he does Tuesdays here at 8:20 on the show. Austin, the number 1 quarterback in the country, commits to Tennessee over the weekend, and Faison Brandon. We've talked a lot with you about his skill set and Hendon Hooker's role in that recruitment. what makes him different from the other quarterbacks in his class, and what sold Tennessee on his potential?
Youth. I mean, he's very young for his age. He's young for his grade, and big kid. I mean, I'm not saying I'm tall, but I'm also not 5'5". If you go and watch my interview with him, I mean, he towers over me, and this is a kid who is going to continue to get bigger. And everybody loves to make the jokes on the general scores. The growth plates are wide open. I mean, he literally was 15 in May. He's 16 now. He turned it first part of June, and he will. If you think about it, 2 years from now, he will go through 6 months of spring ball and winter workouts as a 17-year-old on campus. He's a lot like Shady Hayward is. Shady just turned 17, so he'll be the same way next year. I mean, he's young for his age, and same way Darnell Wright was when he was at Tennessee. So I think the upside, the youth, all that, is a big feather in his cap. As far as between the white lines, kid throws a great ball, has a great pocket presence and command, and Joey Halsley and Josh Heupel did a fantastic job of developing a relationship with him early on. His mom and dad fell in love with Knoxville, and Mom came off the elevator, a week ago, and was like, "Austin, we are home." And she just had a big smile on her face, and she was just, she's like, I've known this place was special since the first time we came here, and she was just so happy. And so this is a family that's super excited to be, committed to Tennessee.
Well, Austin, it's obviously hard to project down the road who's going to succeed Nico Iamaleava, considering Nico's only made one start. But with the age for Faison Brandon, does that make him a bit more of a longer-term project? Is George McIntyre still kind of in the mix there to be the next man up? How do you assess that? Because we tell people all the time, right? You can never have too many good quarterbacks. Heck, Ohio State won a national championship with their third string not too long ago. But what does this battle look like between a lot of top 10 quarterbacks in their classes who are going to be assembled in the same room in not too long?
Yeah, I wouldn't call Faison a project. I just think he's just younger.
Sure.
He's going to get better and the older he gets. I don't know. I mean, we're multiple years away from even thinking about such a thing. Obviously, Jake Merklinger is going to have something to say about that. George will be here for a full year before Faison ever arrives. And so I think all that helps the guys that have been in the room. And I think, for George, it's about putting weight on. It's about, continuing to progress in his own game. Kid's got, unreal upside, and his ability to move around and make plays, is when things break down, I think it's right up there. I wouldn't say it's the best in the country, but it's right up there with the best. I mean, he does a fantastic job. I think with Paul Wade at head coach of Brentwood Academy, I think they're going to be the most improved team in the state. I really do. Paul Wade's going to do nothing flashy, nothing. That dude wins. Period.
Sure does.
And George, I think, is going to benefit from him being the coach. And we're super excited up here in the Knoxville market because we're going to do Brentwood Academy at Knoxville Catholic. That's one of our Rivalry Thursday broadcasts, which is the Thursday before the Florida game. So that puts George in town, a day earlier, than normal, or 2 days earlier than normal. So I know the family's excited about being up here in Knoxville for a couple of days that weekend. And so, yeah, I think George is someone who, has all kinds of potential. So who knows how that quarterback, battle will play out. Either way, I'm with you. I think if you're Tennessee, you just take them all and figure it out, because it's a good problem to have.
Austin, never brag on Wolf School like that again. Okay,
I don't know
you
what
should
you're
have
talking
saw
about.
the smile
No
on his
idea
face.
what you're talking
You mentioned
about.
BA. He's just full of glee right now.
It's
okay?
your word against mine.
Austin, with that being said, getting a number one guy in a recruiting cycle the way they have with Faison Brandon, in years past and you studying recruiting and whatnot, what has that done for recruiting classes? Does that say, hey, we're ahead of the curve on getting these 4- and 5-star guys to also come to Tennessee? What can be sold with a guy like Faison Brandon committing this early in his recruiting?
Well, it obviously helps. The one thing, George got in not as early as Faison, but he got in. The one perk to George was he was always 2.5 hours away. Faison's 5, so he's not going to be able to run over here. Like George was here so much helping recruit. That was such a big deal for this class. I mean, he was always present, and I'm not sure Faison can do that. So it's a big deal. I think with the fact that Tennessee is, in the state of North Carolina, trying to do some big time work. They've done it the last few classes. In fact, if you think about this, for the last 5 years, if Tennessee lands David Sanders on the 17th, they've already got Faison. So for the last 5 years, On3 came into existence when James Pierce was a senior. So Charles Power ranked him the number 1 player in the state of North Carolina. So in 22, they got 22. They got James Pierce. 23, they got David Hobbs, who was the number 2 player in the state of North Carolina by On3. I'm just doing the On3 rankings, not the composite and anything else. 24, there was nobody. 25, if they get Sanders, he's the number 1 player in the state, and Faison's number 1 in 26 by On3. That's 4 out of 5 years you'll have signed the number 1 or number 2 player in the state of North Carolina. And that's a heck of a run. And guess what? Go back to the 90s. Yeah. When was Tennessee good? When they were dominating the Carolinas. Mm-hmm. They were having success in Georgia, and they were staying in the footprint. And guess what? Cherry-picking kids out of California. They've done that a little bit with Nico, and we'll see who else. So there's a recipe, a formula for success, and Josh Heupel and them right now are doing a nice job of, pulling some of that off.
Wow. VolQuest's Austin Price joins us Tuesdays here on the show. I might be playing hooky from the Zone High School football game of the week that weekend.
You said you
before
weren't
the Tennessee-Florida game. Austin, thank you for joining us. We appreciate you.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Austin.
There he is. I just want to watch good football.
Oh, boy.
No, all kidding aside, though, I do agree with him that George and that team will be the most improved team in the state. They've added a Georgia commit up front, and Stephon Shivers as well, who's going to have fun. But I think for Tennessee fans specifically, I kind of knew the answer to that question about who's next after Nico, but it is one that I'm getting a lot talking to Tennessee fans who are like, well, what about George? What about, how is this all going to work? And I think the thing that you answer with that is that, again, Cardale Jones won Ohio State a national championship as a third-string quarterback.
Yeah. It's not a bad problem to have. Like Austin said, just stack them up here, and then we'll decide.
Exactly. By the way, we went through all that, man. Shout out to Carson Snead, man.
DCA tight end.
Yes.
Nice.
4-star tight end, man. I know we led with the update with it, but shout out to him for staying home, picking UT of Ohio State, Georgia, whoever else it was in that kind of Michigan. So, congratulations to him, man, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Number 9 tight end in the country, according to On3, early in the class of 2026, but DCA product right here in the middle of our zone footprint. So good to see Tennessee getting a guy over Ohio State. Nice. Here in their backyard. 615-737